My biological mother committed suicide on Mother's Day. Probably. Probably committed suicide and probably on Mother's Day. Also bad, in 1975, when I was 6, my biological mother, a sad, incomplete, mentally ill, plain-looking woman, lacking the energy to become a narcissist, and absent even elementary levels of parenting skills, took me to see a rated R movie musical. It was about a hypersexualized, over-the-top, hot as hell, red-headed spitfire of a mom with atomic levels of energy, whose absence of even elementary levels of parenting skills traumatizes her young son until she is murdered. Or why I am a 57-year-old life coach who chose a different holiday for my unsuccessful suicide attempt, who takes a Xanax when I lose at Wordle, and who 51 years ago at the age of 6, in a darkened movie theater, transfixed, terrified, and erect, sat next to my biological mother and watched Anne Margaret writhe semi-nude in a pool of baked beans, singing about making good parenting decisions. That same year, 1975, when I was 6, when my biomom took me to see the movie, the rock opera film adaptation of The Who's album Tommy, starring Anne Margaret as the mom, wearing a see-through sequined macrame pantsuit, drenched in baked beans, who flings aside a champagne bottle to free both hands for a frenetic polishing of her breasts while wrestling a very consenting and distended hot dog-shaped body pillow. And also starring Tina Turner as the acid queen, a hypersexualized, over-the-top drug dealer wielding a blood-filled platinum hypodermic needle the size of a turkey baster. My stepmom took me to see Walt Disney's The Apple Dumpling Gang, a rated G children's western in which everyone seems content with eating rather than wearing baked beans. My stepmom is normal and sane. Her entire family is. Generations of hardy, hardworking folk being sane and doing normal things. Good-looking and God-fearing people whose blood does not course through my veins. Descendants of Dutch farmers, Midwestern and Protestant, who raised their children to become farmers and ministers that would raise children to become elementary school teachers and mid-level salesmen. My stepmom's dad, Grandpa Roland, was a Baptist minister, a kind and sturdy man who took a little too long to eat and too long to attach the unwieldy flashbulb to the large camera he'd bring during our frequent family trips to Disneyland. Yet even this amount of time, while longer than desired, elicited only mild frustration from me and my brother, anxious to get dessert or go on the next ride. Like when you rewind the show you're binge watching, not even half a scene too far back, and you don't really mind watching that bit again, too long of an amount of time. At most, another adult might groan or chuckle at a slightly increased volume toward Grandpa Roland as he fiddled with his camera lens, and he would reply with an appropriate, measured groan or chuckle of his own. It was a very different vibe than my biomom's family gatherings, where every word was weaponized, eye contact was aimed, and silence meant combatants were relighting borrowed cigarettes and reloading their breath, best adjectives, and long-held grievances. On my biomom's side of the family, words were whispered or wailed. My biomom's dad, Grandpa Nat, liked to reserve yelling for promoting sex and denouncing religion, preferably in public spaces. So he was especially loud that time at my birthday party. I think it's the year two different relatives got me the Candyland board game. When he invited my dad, his former son-in-law, and his new wife, my new stepmom, to an orgy. In the early days, my dad and stepmom would often join my bio mom's family, so all of the adults could show me and my younger brother that they could all get along. It never showed this. My bio mom must have summoned enough energy to softly plead, it was so hard to hear her sometimes, to softly plead to her dad to stop asking her ex-husband and his new wife to an orgy. During the fights on my bio mom's side of the family, which always happened, those not directly involved would pretend to be interested in something uninteresting. I wonder what it could be. A cousin or aunt might shout too slowly or too quickly, but definitely with an exaggerated craned neck, as if fighting a crowd to get the very best view as I opened a 3-pack of socks. Or everyone would pretend the waitress asking, "Would anyone like pie or decaf?" was as inherently interesting as, say for example, hearing how a former son-in-law in the presence of his new wife and at his child's birthday party might respond to his former father-in-law's invite to a sex party. The difference between my bio mom's family and my stepmom's family was the difference between eating baked beans and writhing in them. So in 1975, when I was 6, my bio mom, whose blood sure as fuck courses through my veins, took me to see the Who's rock opera movie, Tommy. My bio mom, a hippie and feminist who would make everyone say "ah woman" after we said amen during the Passover Seder, and any other times that we put napkins on our heads, because she could never find the yarmulkes that she hadn't already used to catch the ash from the joints I don't ever remember not rolling and then handing to my bio mom and her friends, all usually too stoned and disoriented, on the living room futons, yes plural, to move. Bio mom told me just a couple of years before she overdosed on prescription drugs that she was fired from her nursing job for stealing prescription drugs. I grew up with my dad and stepmom and visited my bio mom every other weekend, more during summers. At her house, I hung out in the backyard a lot, playing albums on the record player that sat on the camper van in the driveway and was attached to one of the 3 extension cords that snaked out of the back kitchen door. The albums were usually one of Naked Allen's records. The record player was his too. Naked Allen rented the detached garage at my bio mom's house, which didn't have electrical or plumbing. It was barely a garage. The vertical wood plank so warped and broken that my neighbor friend Paul, who lived in the condemned house across the street, and I could both watch Naked Allen have sex with the women he brought back on his motorcycle from between the same 2 slotted, rotted, faded redwood slats and hardly have to tilt our heads. Tommy tells the story of Anne Margaret's musical and erotic efforts to help her son regain the sight, hearing, and speech he lost as a result of the adults in his life being hypersexualized narcissists without even elementary levels of parenting skills. If you've never seen Tommy and are older than 6, for the love of God, maybe watch it someday. Hot mom Anne Margaret finally heals Tommy by throwing him through a very large mirror. A complicated and I think unhelpful metaphor outside the world of rock operas. With his refound consciousness, Tommy becomes a cult leader whose disciples ultimately crush his mom's skull in. His mom's death immediately allows Tommy to become free and fully alive, and he sings of peace and nature as he walks barefoot in the mountains and a glorious sun sets behind his golden locks of curly hair. It's been 26 years since my bio mom probably committed suicide, and I don't feel free or at one with anything, and my hair is rapidly thinning. I did sing outside today, and I was barefoot. It was the jingle for Otezla, which treats moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. It can also lead to swelling and even death.